going on there, folks? Good evening, early evening. It is Earthmaster here, checking on the live stream here. It is May 23rd, 2021, 5:42 p.m. West Coast time here in California, and we've got quite a bit to talk about in the solar weather department. Some major activity on the uptick in the with the surface of the sun, producing some significant flares. Now, while these are no major far as the class of flares go, there was quite a few that were produced from a specific sunspot. So it's kind of nice to see the sun starting to come alive for a little bit. Looks like potentially here on the May 25th, looking at a G1, and on May 26th, even a little bit stronger potential. Now these could be revised, weaker or stronger, depending on how the Earth takes it. But looking pretty active there on the 26th of May, with a 30% chance of geomagnetic storms there in the mid-latitudes. Of course, 65% a little bit higher. It's all coming off of a sunspot called 2824, AR2824. According to these folks here at solarham.net, it sprung to life with numerous C-class solar flares during the past 24 hours. This was put out yesterday. Largest of these three. Actually, there was some larger. There was a larger one, a couple larger ones than the C flares. Looks like okay. They added this as a note in M1.1, and I believe there's one more significant M flare. Coronal mass ejection was observed earlier Saturday, originating from 2824 and is most directed towards the east. As you can see, kind of offset a little bit over there, but nonetheless did hurl out a CME. The outer edge could be directed our way. Should this be the case, a glancing blow to our geomagnetic field may be possible by May 25th here. Space Weather has a little bit better article on here, an updated one yesterday, May 22nd, right? So this is updated. Sunspot AR2824 unleashed a sequence of solar flares unlike anything we've seen in years. Woo! It's about time. In only 24 hours, NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory recorded 10 C flares and 2 M flares. Wow. The rapid-fire explosions hurled multiple overlapping CMEs into space. A combined CME will hit Earth's magnetic field during the late hours of May 25th, potentially sparking G2 class geomagnetic storms. Now that's moderate storm. Let's see here. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, folks, to see this type of activity kicking up here. The flaring of Sunspot 2824 continues. On May 23rd, some more radio bursts may be in the offing. When we see these sunspots light off flares, we end up with radio blackouts in certain bands. So it's kind of cool to see. If you're into CB radio, like I haven't been in the past couple years because of the lack of sunspots, but during solar cycles of very active sunspots, we're able to communicate pretty far distances, better known as skip. It's got a lot to do with the sunspots on the sun and the flaring. And I remember as a kid, I used to listen to people in like Louisiana, all the big boys running some major amperage. And I'd be out here in California trying to talk to them, not knowing that they couldn't hear me. But yeah, it's pretty crazy how the skip system works. I don't want to go on and on that, but it is definitely associated with the sunspot activity. So according to these folks, looking at a potential over the next 24, 48 hours of another M flare, 25% over the next 48 hours. That's pretty significant there. I don't think we'll see anything stronger than an M flare. That would be crazy if we did, but it's just the dynamics of this sunspot are not set up yet for a X flare. But it's neat to see, definitely neat to see an M flare nonetheless. C flare, I'm sure that's pretty active. Let's see, what do we got here? Obviously, C flares are going to be happening. The max so far looks like that M1.1, I believe, on the solar X-rays. That's pretty awesome. Let's see if these guys will show us this movie here. See all the CMEs hitting out? Kind of looks like a blur or a wave kicking out. Boy, that thing is sparking like crazy. Wow. That's a bunch of flares, folks. Definitely something like we haven't seen in many years. That's cool. So total looks like what they say 10 C flares and 2 M flares. That's pretty significant, let me tell you. And I do believe, in a way, in certain studies I've done, I believe that a lot of the solar weather activity is related to what happens here on Earth when it comes to plate tectonics in general, weather, volcanic activity. Definitely weather. Weather is a big one. Not saying a couple C flares are going to cause a super active hurricane season this year. Who knows? But I do think when we see active activity like this from the sun, it does affect things here on Earth. Like me, I've been feeling a little, I don't know, man, just a little anxious. I don't know if anybody else has been feeling that, and it's only happened like, man, I felt it when I woke up this morning. And not because I got a good night's sleep, because that really didn't happen, but just been feeling anxious and kind of like I'm in a hurry to go somewhere, like I need to go somewhere or something. It's a weird feeling, but it could be because of that. It could be something else. Who knows? But it does. I think everything's connected, and one another does. Something like this does affect things here on Earth. Let's see here. What else we got? So G2 class storms. G1 is a minor. G2 is a moderate. Let's see what these guys got here. G2 class storms. It's weird when I pop on that. G1. Let's see if I can get this. They should have a G2, right? Oh yeah, there we go. They just had the wrong link in there. G2 moderate, geomagnetic storm impacts, power systems. Higher latitude power systems may experience voltage alarms. Long duration storms may cause transfer damage. Spacecraft operations, corrective actions to orientation may be required by ground control. Possible changes in drag affect orbital predictions. Other systems such as HF radio propagation can fade at higher latitudes. An aurora has been seen as low as New York and Idaho on a G2 storm, moderate storm. So that's cool. That's really neat. New York, Idaho. Definitely Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming area. Could see a good chance of seeing that. Can't wait. Hopefully this thing gets a little bit stronger. We'll see how that, see what happens as it gets closer. But yeah, that's kind of the big story right now, folks, in the space weather department. Earthquake. Far as go over here real quick and check the coronal holes. There's not a whole lot facing us. We just got that sunspot there, and then another one behind it that could be fairly active as well. This thing is slowly turning this way, right? Going to be facing us, so it's very possible, definitely over the next couple days, to see some more solar activity. Things are getting interesting. Coronal hole way up here to the north, nothing really facing us. Another small one down on the south disk. Other than that, that's about it for coronal holes. Definitely cool to see a sunspot, though. Let's see what else we got. There's the sunspot once again. Kind of cool looking. Nothing major, but like I say, we're going to be amping up towards solar maximum here in pretty soon. Definitely going to be acting up here. There's the polar dynamics of the sunspot. Nothing spectacular. It is surrounded by a number of smaller spots with opposite negative polarity. The tension surrounding the region continues to manifest itself in the forms of sea flares. Due to the magnetic instability, an isolated moderate M flare may be possible during the next 24 hours. Be prepared. Earthquake activity. What's going on in the earthquake department, folks? There's some areas of interest at the moment. Oklahoma seeing a swarm of earthquake activity. We've got to go down here to the all magnitudes to see the multitude of quakes that are taking place out here near Quinton, right? Did I get that right out there? It's buried underneath a swarm of earthquakes. Looking at about 20 earthquakes over the last 24 hours, and I believe there was more to that. 3.2, 2.4, quite a few twos. I believe the largest so far is at 3.2. This is in an area where we've seen quite a bit of fracking operations, but I'm not... I was saying this was fracking last night, and it could be. But we got to watch this very closely here. It is up against the mountains, and there's some fault structures up here. But with all these operations, these pumping operations, these little boxes, you can't really zoom in too far on here, but these little areas that look like roads that go to a square, right? Those are all pumping operations. Definitely not your beautiful farmhouses out there in Oklahoma. And they're all over the place. They're everywhere. So we're watching this area for potentially larger scale movement. As always, when we see a swarm like that, we have to watch out. The other swarm, Northern California, has got me a little bit concerned up here too. This is well north of where that earthquake struck near Truckee last week. Remember that? What was it? Good Lord. 4.7, I think. Let me see here. Well, that's not good. 7 days, 4.5. What was it? 4. What was it? There it is, 4.7. Okay, so it's been over a week ago. So it's outside of that area where that 4.7 struck. If you look at 30 days, we could just go 7 days, all magnitudes there. This here is where that 4.7 struck. And there has been other earthquake activity there in this region. And of course, a swarm underneath Lake Tahoe has been happening for a little while. But this area up here to the north is a little concerning because we're looking at, what do we got here? About 11 earthquakes or so. This is the all magnitudes. And there's really been no main quake up here. It looks like these could potentially be getting stronger in the magnitude departments. It started out as a couple small low twos. They worked their way up to middle twos, and they even had a 3-pointer. Last couple ones have been in the upper twos. This one up here, a 1.8. The depth of these earthquakes are kind of concerning as well. I'm not for sure if these have been reviewed by seismologists. It's still on automatic. Okay, so hopefully someone will be looking into it. Let's see if they've looked at this 2.6. It's 4.4. See, look at that. This one's been reviewed by seismologists, and that's been corrected to a 4.4. So I don't believe that these are subsurface quakes or any surface quaking at that in general. 4.4 kilometers down below the surface here seems more realistic. And I think these other ones still have yet to be revised by a reviewing seismologist. But it's still interesting to see this earthquake activity up here to the north. And it's possible that 4.7 and all the activity here in the Lake Tahoe area last week, a couple weeks ago, has definitely activated some fault systems up here near Portola. It's not anything to do with Lassen National Park. Lassen National Park is way up there in this area right here, and that's pretty quiet. It has been for a while. But this area right here near Portola, Lake Davis area, something to keep an eye on as a sign of increasing pressure out here along the eastern edge of the Sierra Nevadas. What else we got here, folks? Geysers still looking pretty active. We'll be taking a trip down there pretty soon to check out that movement. Northern California pretty quiet. As far as the all magnitudes go, there's not a whole lot going on in the Pacific Northwest either. A couple scattered earthquake activity, microquakes up here northeast of Portland. Looks like some type of military reservation where that area, where that quake activity is taking place. Other than that, generally quiet, including the Intermountain West and Wyoming. But let's see if I don't believe they have. Yeah, they haven't. USGS has not included the earthquake swarm that spittered for a little bit. Let me show you guys that real quick. This was yesterday, late last night. This activity right here, you guys, not down here. This is all interference, some type of interference, somebody messing with something. But this activity, see those three lines on a multiple seismograph stations there. Now we had a pretty good, just a spitter sputter of earthquake activity in this region. All these other little ones are earthquakes as well, but just much smaller. And these are pretty good. These very localized, and it looks like it definitely looks like a handful of quakes in a very short amount of time. You can see that as well right there, and maybe 5-6 earthquakes here. That one there is probably, looking at the reading on this, it looks like that's definitely above a 2.0. So we'll have to see if the USGS will issue that. Sometimes they're kind of late when it comes to putting up earthquake activity here on the map. But for today, nothing's showing up there on the all magnitudes one day, and including back 7 days there. The newer earthquake activity is not showing up. Southern Cal looking pretty quiet, folks. Just a couple microquakes around the region in our expected areas, Ridgecrest, Mabbin Lakes, and up through Nevada, and some movement along the San Jacinto Fault area. Pretty quiet in that area, but Oklahoma, man, keep an eye on that region. Did have some movement further south here, Baja California, Gulf of California, 4.6. And general activity over here in the Japan area showing a little bit of uptick. Looking at some deeper movement there around Tokyo. Got a 4.4 up north at 178 kilometers. That's pretty deep. And 4.6 near Tokyo at a pretty good depth as well at 64 kilometers. Still waiting for potential large-scale movement in that region. Over here around the Himalayas in this area where we've seen that large 7.3 in China and the 6.1 further south, things are quieting down a little bit. Still some aftershock activity up north. That's going to be expected for weeks to come. Philippines seen a little bit of movement, a couple fives around the area, and also a swarm of quakes down here near in Indonesia area. A couple lower fives and a 4.6 at some variable depths right there. Mostly looks like about 41 kilometers for two of those. What else we got? South. We got Africa here. That was. Let's see. Where exactly was that at? Let's see here. Rwanda. That's right. North. In this area here, we've seen a couple 4-pointers kicking off there. In an area where it's definitely been seismically active. We can check out the historical map here. You guys can see the general movement here. Not clustered like crazy along a major plate boundary, but definitely earthquake activity out there since 1900, since they've been keeping record. And I'm sure prior to that as well. Looks like we could see some larger size magnitudes than what we've been seeing. 5-pointer up to possibly a 6.0 in this region, as far as historical earthquake activity goes. Let's see what else we got here. So yeah, watching this area as well. Down here, South Africa looking pretty quiet. Cape Town pretty quiet at the moment. And just a little earthquake down here in the South Sandwich Islands area. 5.3 at 35 kilometers. So it'll be interesting to see how the solar activity coming up here plays a part in earthquake activity over the next couple days. I'll be keeping a close eye on that and maybe comparing things. It just may be coincidence where we're seeing larger earthquakes. A 7.3 that struck over there in China a couple days ago. Activity wasn't really super strong, right, in the solar weather department. So, but I still think it does play a part in the activity here on Earth. Solar weather, that is. Tremor map. This is from yesterday, I believe. 5/23. Oh, I'll be darned. Okay, it is up. I must have just caught it. A little bit of activity kicking up Northern Cal and into the Oregon area once again here. Be interesting to see how this progresses. Let's check yesterday. I kind of wanted to see what yesterday was. 22nd. Yeah, just a little bit of movement there along the Cascadia. Nothing big. Scattered up and down the landscape, or underneath the landscape, I should say. All right, folks. Have a good night. Have a good evening. Live stream is back up and running. It went down unexpectedly once again. Not for sure why, but it is what it is. Just got to keep an eye on it. Eventually, I'll figure it out. So yeah, have a good night. Keep an eye on those areas of swarming, Oklahoma and Northern California. We'll chat you guys a little bit later if anything new develops. Stay safe out there.